because I will be posting this into the community at homesongwritingcourses.com. So if you are not a member, uh, it's free to become a member. You can access the community and post things there, so you can rewatch the workshops. But for those of you who are new, at home songwriting is really a place where we get together and talk about the craft of songwriting and really focus on how to help you write better songs. I know a lot of people do it as a hobby. Some people do it as sort of their potential career aspirations. No matter why you're writing songs, I think the key is we all want to write the best songs that we can. And for me, I want to write professional sounding songs at home, sort of regardless of what I end up doing with them. So it's really about the craft, and it's about writing better songs. Tony says he's a recent member, but it's great. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate that. So today, what we're going to cover is we're going to talk about couplets. And we're going to focus on some structural things and sort of why are songs structured the way that they are, and sort of why does that work, and why is it so common within songwriting. I see that Kevin joined. Awesome, Kevin. Welcome. We have Shelly, Wally, Heather. Sweet. A lot of people popping in. So let's talk about couplets today. So some of this, if you're newer to songwriting, this may seem a little bit in the weeds. It may seem a little bit technical, but I want to keep it at the level of you don't have to know this to write songs, but you can, but it helps you if you do know it, if that makes sense. So do you need to be an expert at this? No. But is it helpful for you as you write songs? Yes. It's something that can help you understand how structure supports what you're trying to say, and also get a better understanding of why songs just work the way that they do. So let's jump in here, and I am going to share my screen. Pop over here. So what are we going to do today? So first off, we're going to learn about couplets, obviously. But I want to give you really the building blocks and sort of the theory behind lyric writing. So we're really going to focus on the concept of lyrics today. And I want you to see how structure affects the feeling and the emotion of a piece. So when we talk about this, we're really talking about the concept of prosody. So some of you who have been attending these workshops, or, you know, if you've been my student in the past, you know that prosody is such an important part of songwriting, and it's such a great tool to use. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to do a couple of writing exercises, so you will have an opportunity to practice some of this. And then also I want to give you some food for thought. So again, some of this stuff, you don't have to necessarily know it right after this workshop, but I want you to just have it in the back of your mind to think about as you are writing. And then if we have time, we'll do some open discussion as well. I do have a link. So if you find value in these workshops, you can make a donation, a tip to me. No obligation. It's not something that you have to do, but if you feel moved to, buy me a coffee kind of a thing, put some money in. This is the tip jar, as Tony put in the chat. It's buymeacoffee.com/@home-songwriting. So I don't know if somebody wants to type that in the chat. If you can probably type it faster than me running that, but just buymeacoffee.com/@home-songwriting. Appreciate anything there. So let's move on now to what is a couplet. So a couplet is a noun, and it means two lines of verse, usually in the same length and meter, joined by rhyme that form a unit. So two lines of verse, you can replace that with lyric. So two lines of lyrics, usually the same length and the same meter, joined by rhyme that form a unit. So Simple concept, right? You have two lines that are the same length, they have the same rhythm, they rhyme. That's a couplet. So when we're talking about couplets, that's what we're really talking about today. And I want to take it deeper to really look at why is the concept of a couplet so useful within the context of modern songwriting. And when we talk about this, we're talking a lot about commercial song structure. So when you think about lyrics, lyrics are really built on syllables. So you start with syllables, syllables become words, words become lines, and then lines become sections, and sections become your whole song. So when we're talking about a section, sections is usually what we would call like a verse, a chorus, a pre-chorus, a bridge. Those would be names of sections. But we're going to talk all the way down to the syllable level today and start talking about how do syllables work together to create those words, to create the lines, and then create ultimately the sections and your song. So again, some of this is going to be very technical. This might be very new and deep to some of you. But again, you don't have to memorize all of this, but it's helpful when you are thinking about songwriting. And in upcoming workshops, we'll go back to more foundational things as well. But this is a little bit more advanced today. So syllables are not created equal. By a show of hands, how many of you have written a song and your lines have the same number of syllables, but they don't sing the same? Like they just won't fit your melody the same, right? Like you've written a song and the lines have like, let's say 10 syllables, but for some reason they don't fit the melody the same. Well, syllables are not created equal. There are stressed syllables and unstressed syllables. So your patterns of these syllables is what determines the length of your lines, not the total number of syllables. So even though you might have the same number of syllables, they don't have the same pattern, so they wouldn't sing the same. They wouldn't fit the same rhythm. Tony says, since learning about it, stressed and unstressed drives him nuts. Hopefully it doesn't drive you that nuts, but we'll talk more about that. So the key here is remembering that there are stressed and unstressed syllables. So what we're going to talk about today is common tetrameter couplets. So what does tetrameter mean? Tetrameter means 4 stressed syllables. So when we have a tetrameter couplet, that means we have 2 lines that each have 4 stressed syllables in each line. And these lines usually rhyme. Yeah, stressed syllables are different than stressed songwriters, right? You have a stressed songwriter and stressed syllables. So when we're talking about tetrameter couplets, it's really 4 stressed syllables. So why does this matter? Well, tetrameter couplets would be like if you had a line, push me, kiss me, drive me home. So there's 4 stressed syllables. Whoops. Your stressed syllables are push, kiss, drive, and home. So you have stressed, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed. Why are the me's unstressed? Because they're a pronoun. They don't carry meaning. They are a word that sets up another word in the sentence. So the words that actually hold meaning are push, kiss, drive, and home, right? So those are the stressed syllables. If you had another line that matched it, stress syllables and pattern, that would be nights I wish I lived alone. So you have push me, kiss me, drive me home, nights I wish I lived alone. So you have nights is stressed, I unstressed, wish is stressed, I unstressed, lived is stressed, and then alone is unstressed, stress. So it's weak, strong, alone, alone. So that is a tetrameter couplet. So what does that look like from a stressed syllable pattern? Well, you have two lines that are dum da dum da dum da dum, dum da dum da dum da dum. So that's a tetrameter couplet. Four stressed syllables, the lines match each other, there's resolution. So couplets usually create resolution when they balance each other out. And that's going to be an important concept that we're going to talk about in just a minute. And again, I'm giving you a whole bunch of like sort of, I guess, the theory here, and then we can talk about application, but I want to get a foundation of sort of what we're talking about first. So any questions on this piece of it, like the tetrameter, the four stresses, does that make sense how we're coming up with that number and how they're stressed? And you can raise your hand, you can use the reaction function or put in the chat as well. Cool. So why then are tetrameter couplets so common? So if you look at this, those are, if you look at songs, a lot of songs, the lines are about this long, right? You probably have 4 to 5 stress syllables in a line of lyric usually. There's a reason for that. And lines that have 4 stress syllables fit very conveniently into 2 bars of 4/4 time. So each line that has 4 stress syllables can sing quite easily within to 2 measures or 2 bars in 4/4 time. When you stack 2 sets of couplets, then that means you have basically 4 lines per couplet. So you get an 8-bar section when you have 2 couplets stacked on each other. And for some reason or another, in commercial music or music that we listen to, a lot of times they're 8-bar sections. So the reason why you see lyrics written this way is because they fit into these 8-bar sections. So if we look at the couplets that I had written before, if you broke them out into quarter notes, within 4/4 time, quarter notes have a strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak pattern. So your downbeat is strong. So it goes strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak. Some of you may think like kick, snare, kick, snare, kick, snare, kick, snare, right? The snare is happening on the unstressed beat. Your kick is happening on the stressed beats. So this is the dum da dum da dum da dum da pattern. So strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak. So if you recited these lines, Victor says boom, chick, boom, Yeah, exactly. If you ever ask Siri on your phone to beatbox, that's what she'll do. She'll do boom, chick, boom, chick. So this line here, your first line is push me, kiss me, drive me home. Nights I wish I lived alone. So that fits really nicely into 2 measures. So this would be like your first measure, second measure. So these 2 lines take up 4 bars. Does that make sense? But then you could also think of these as 8th notes too. So you could have push me, kiss me, drive me home. This would then be 1 measure, and then you would have your couplet happening in 2 measures, but the math still works, right? So it depends on how quickly you're moving through the measure. But this is why tetrameter couplets are so common, is because they fit very nicely into the 2 bars. So you can create an 8-bar section with 2 sets of couplets. So there's 2 types then of rhythm matching. So when we're talking about rhythm matching, we're talking about matching the line stress pattern. So both of these lines have a dum da dum da dum da dum. Push me, kiss me, drive me home. Nights I wish I lived alone. Those are perfectly matched. right? Because the rhythm is exactly the same. So that's the first type of couplet rhythm matching. So it's perfectly matched. So that, as I just said, is the dum da dum da dum da dum, dum da dum da dum da dum. They resolve perfectly matched. So what I'd like to do, or so then now the second type is imperfectly matched. So what does imperfectly matched mean? Well, imperfectly matched means they have the same length, they have the same total number of syllables, but they have a different pattern, they have a different rhythm. So they're the same length, but they're imperfectly matched. So what does this mean? So this means if we had dum da dum da dum da dum, dum da da dum, dum da da dum. So they still have 4 stressed syllables, but the pattern is different. So they're matched imperfectly. So an example of this in lyric would be give away your painful life, run in the warm light every night. So those are imperfectly matched. So perfectly matched are very stable. It's very resolved. It balances itself out. This version, where it's matched but it's not perfectly matched, creates a little bit of tension between the lines, so they don't feel quite as resolved. So they add a sense of tension, they add a sense of unbalance. And why would you want to think about that? Well, if you have a topic that's very stable, you may not want to use an unstable structure, right? So you want to think about, is my topic stable or is my topic unstable or balanced or unbalanced? And then that way you can have that feeling matched in the structure of what you're trying to say. Tony says it looks like imperfect has less stressed syllables, which could be good for him. No, they're the same, Tony. So each of these lines have 4 stressed syllables. So you have give away your painful life. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4. So you have run in the warm light every night. So dum da da dum, dum da da dum. Yeah. So there's more unstressed syllables in the second line, but the unstressed syllables don't count for the length because the unstressed syllables get added into the rhythm. Any questions on perfectly matched and imperfectly matched? Greg.
Yeah, Chad, quick question on your previous example, the perfectly matched one.
Yeah.
Um, if you were to add the word some right there before nights, so it's an unstressed syllable, you still have the rhythm's the same, everything's the same, but you start with the pickup, some nights, you know what I mean? Would that still be
Yep.
considered perfect or imperfect or something in between?
So it would be it since the lines are different, that would be considered imperfect because you have an extra unstressed syllable. So technically the rhythm is like 1 syllable different. But
Okay,
from a length perspective, they're the same length.
right.
Yeah, good question. Um, let me go back here. So what I'd like you to do is, I thought I had another. Did I miss? Oh, here we go. So what I'd like you to do is first do a exercise here to where you write a couplet that perfectly matches these 2 lines. So we have push me, kiss me, drive me home, nights I wish I lived alone. Your next 2 lines would be dum da dum da dum da dum, dum da dum da dum da dum. And what I'd like you to do is try to write a couplet that uses a different rhyme sound. So try not to use the O, the ohm, or the lone sound, but let's take about 5 minutes and try to write a couplet that, and it doesn't even have to make sense. Just try writing in that stress pattern, right? The idea here is to practice writing in the rhythm and matching the rhythm. But if you want to expand on what's written there, you definitely can. But let's take about 5 minutes and have you write another couplet on top of this. So this one will be perfectly matched. So you want the rhythm to be the same. And I'm going to set a timer here, 5 minutes, and we'll start now. Got about a minute left. Do we need more time? Are we good at this point? Or looks like I've got some thumbs up. So let's go ahead and you can finish writing if you're working on it yet. Ron posted in the chat, walking barefoot in the sand. I just can't let go of her hand. Prepositions are usually not stressed. Walking barefoot in the sand. Walking barefoot in the sand. So Ron, that would be your couplet there would be imperfectly matched because the rhythm changes. So you have like a duple pattern with walking barefoot in the sand, and then you go just can't let go of her hand. You go to a triplet feel in there. So that would be imperfectly matched. Does that make sense?
So
Yeah, so the rhythm changes. So you have walking barefoot in the sand, just can't let go of her. So just can't let go of her hand. Yeah, it's a different rhythm. So it's imperfectly matched what you did there.
the rhythm I had was walking barefoot in the sand, just can't let go of her hand. But again, that's the stress preposition I was unsure of.
Oh, got it. Just can't let go. Yeah. So the way that it would be properly stressed is a triplet pattern. Triplet pattern there. So I think what you're misstressing the prepositions, which um technically that would be a misstress, so it doesn't quite match that pattern, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you.
Um well, lots of them getting pushed in here. So JP has push me, kiss me, drive me home, nights I wish I lived alone, can't forget the time we spent, wanna see you again. I wanna see you again. Wanna see you again. So your last line changes, JP. So the last line in that doesn't match, but the can't forget the time we spent matches. Michelle has give you love, share your heart. Let us soar, let us start. I know it's hokey, but it's hard. Make it perfect. I know it's hokey, but it's hard to make it perfect. Give you love, share your heart. Give your love, share your heart. Let us soar, let us start. Yeah, that works. So this takes practice, everybody. So writing to a stress pattern is something that takes practice because we don't necessarily do it. And a lot of times we are misstressing words. And I have a full workshop on which words get stressed, which words don't get stressed. That's on the YouTube channel at athomesongwriting.com. It's about lyric rhythm matching. So if you haven't watched that, definitely check that out for sure. Wally has taking, thinking, leave a note, want to tease you, let me know. Yep. Maria, wonder me, wonder you in our wonderland. So the last part changes a little bit. Jim has all the time I've lived in pain, less in tune with things I've gained. Yes, perfect. Also, Robin, pairing syllables that rhyme, I could do it all the time. I'm also stressing the secondary stress in syllable. Pairing syllables that rhyme, I could do it all the time. So that pattern doesn't quite match though what was written there. Mark Grimm is late. No problem, Mark. So the concept here is perfectly matching the rhythm gives you a sense of resolution and it gives you a sense of balance. And a line that's perfectly matched you would be able to sing it the same to a melody. It could have the same exact melody. Now, if we do an imperfectly matched line, again, imperfectly matched means you have the same number of stress syllables, but you have a different rhythm pattern. So let's take 2 or 3 minutes here and have you write an imperfectly matched line to run away and seize the day. So that's the line that you're imperfectly matching. So it's run away and seize the day. So yeah, we'll give it about 2 minutes here and then we'll come back to it. Robin says, I just make it work when I sing lines that are not perfectly matched. The risk you take there, though, is you misstress words that shouldn't be stressed, and it can pull the authenticity and it can pull the meaning out of what you're trying to say. So it's always better to try to make sure that you're properly keeping the stress of the language. So yeah, so go ahead and write an imperfectly matched rhyme to run away and seize the day. Neil's question, should it rhyme? Yeah, try to rhyme it if you can. So it looks like people are putting in the chat here. So, um, yeah, it looks like these are quite good. I want to go back. Ron was the first one. Run away and seize the day. Make them see things your way. So make them see things your way. So yeah, so you have 4 syllables, different pattern. Perfect. Because you have make is stressed, see is stressed, things and way are stressed. So good job, Ron. Michelle has don't let your worries stand in the way. So don't worries stand way. So yeah, so you have 4 syllables, not perfectly matched. Great, Michelle. Neil has run away and seize the day. Take the right path to find your way. So Neil, you actually added a stress syllable. So you actually have 5 stress syllables. So you actually those lines don't match. They're a different length. So you have take, right, path, find, way are all stress. So you actually have 5 stresses there. Hazeline has don't mind the rain, just have your way. Hazeline, you did the same thing as Neil. You added a 5th stress syllable there. Victor, and all your tomorrows are bleeding away. So you actually have 3 stress syllables, and all your tomorrows are. Oh, actually, if you stress all, you would have 4. All is one of those words that can kind of go either way. Jim has run away and seized the day. Just never feel that you have to pay. Perfect. Mark just repeated the line. John, a part of me is on display. Yep. Wally, look away and see me away. Yep, that's right. Jeanette has show and tell and truth will sell. Show and tell and truth will sell. So you actually matched it perfectly, Jeanette. So you have dum da dum da dum da dum. So you actually did the last exercise on this one. Greg has bask in the glow, fade away. Perfect. Here's Mark's second line. So laugh aloud and let them follow. Yep, that's right. Shelley, if you stay, you might be safe. If you stay, you might be safe. Yes, that works. Though it's cold out, we all still play. Tony's right. Kevin woke up drunk and fell back down. Yes. Well, woke up drunk and fell back down. So if you don't stress up, that would work. So woke up drunk and fell back down. Jay has run away, seized the day. You start your life when seeking pain. Perfect. Yeah. So really, Maria has drink, dead, and drop, drink, dead, and drop Dean in your funny way. I think there might
Drop
be a
that. Sorry, drop that.
drop
Drink.
dead. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So that would work with the stresses there. So as you can see, you have options when you are writing lyrics. And sometimes these decisions are made for you because you already have a melody to write to, right? So if you already have a melody, you're basically doing this by writing to the rhythm of the melody, because rhythm is where lyric meets melody. So when we're talking about this, we're really talking about, is your couplet balanced or is it unbalanced? So perfectly matched is balanced, it's resolved, it feels stable. Imperfectly matched is unbalanced, it's unresolved, it has movement to it, it builds up tension. So the question to then ask yourself is, what you're writing about, is this topic balanced or is it unbalanced? And this can mean, is it a moving type feeling or is it a stable type feeling? And that's how you determine what structure you want to use within your lyrics. So the thing about couplets is lines of the same length, like couplets, create resolve every 2 lines. And it's either complete resolution or it's like some level of resolution. So every 2 lines, you have a start, a stop, a start, a stop, a start, a stop. So writing a full song in only couplets will bore your listener. So I've seen people do it where they have A, B, B, A, B, B, A, B, B, A, B, B, entire song. This pattern makes your song feel like it drags, because you're starting and you're stopping, you're starting and you're stopping, you're starting and you're stopping. So what you want to try to do is avoid using only couplets within your song. So now the next question is, if you're not using couplets, what are you going to use? So what happens then if we change line lengths? So what if we have a line that starts with 4 stresses, and then Michelle says, like hymns, no wonder I used to fall asleep in church. Could have something to do with it. There's probably other reasons too. Depends on who's saying these things too. That makes a difference. But so if you have a 4 stress line and then you have a 3 stress line, this creates a sense of imbalance, right? So 4 to 3 now all of a sudden, that feels like it's unresolved. And we crave balance. So this is where the concept of common meter is born from, the concept of couplets. And I told you we're getting really deep into syllables, and we're getting really deep into this stuff today, where this is really giving you the foundation of why songs work the way that they do. So if you have a 4 stress line and then another 4 stress line, that creates balance. If you take a stress syllable off, now all of a sudden you have an unstable 2-line section. And in order to balance it, we want to hear another 4 stress line followed by a 3 stress line. And the balance and the resolution comes at the end of the 4 lines instead of after each 2. So couplets are considered what's called fragmented, because if these were all 4 stress lines, you would have a resolution in the middle. Whereas this is considered common meter, and it's considered through written. So the resolution doesn't come until the end of the section. And the balance comes from 4-3-4-3. We're repeating the numbers of syllables, and we're repeating the order of the syllables. We talked about this in our rhyming workshop that we had before too, using rhyme as a tool, not a necessity. That's on the at-home songwriting courses.com website if you missed that one. So this is called common meter. So it looks like this. So it's dum da dum da dum da dum, dum da dum da dum, dum da dum da dum da dum, dum da dum da dum. Victor says Mary had a little lamb. Yes. Or what if you started unstressed? It would be amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. So now you have, Victor says that's a hymn. Yes, it's a good hymn. But do you see how it doesn't resolve in the middle like couplets would? It resolves at the end of the section. Greg asks a great question. So is common meter always 4-3, 4-3, or any repeating match sets of lines? So it's not always 4-3, 4-3. Sometimes you have 6-4, 6-4. You might have like, you might have 5-3, 5-3. It's really the pattern and the structure that repeats. But this is the most common, is the 4-3, 4-3. But great question. So Victor was a little bit ahead of me. So not only does Amazing Grace fit this, but Mary Had a Little Lamb fits this as well. So this is what we consider common meter. So here's the thing. We don't want all of our songs sounding like nursery rhymes. And I had somebody ask me that the other day, is how do I make my songs not sound like nursery rhymes? The fast answer is don't write them like a nursery rhyme, but understand why the structure works the way that it does. So this structure works because we're throwing the section off balance until the end of the section, right? So it creates motion to be through written. So just remember, couplets resolve every 2 measures, common meter resolves every 4, couplets resolve every 2 lines, common meter resolves after every 4 lines. So fragmented and through written. Most songs are built on 4 to 6 line sections that are some pattern of balance and unbalance. I know this is getting really technical, but are there any questions on what we've been covering so far? Robin says that one is super common in lyrics and poetry. Tony says doesn't the 2 start on the duh, not the dumb? It does start on a duh, but the length of the line is the 3 stress syllables. So it's 4 and then 3. Neil, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, just a little comment about nursery rhymes. It's something I've been not grappling with, but sort of recognize, more recently in my songwriting journey, is that like when it comes to symmetry versus asymmetry, like nursery rhymes are symmetrical in so many ways. Like it's an A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, the rhymes, the structure, the melodies, all in like you say, in couplets or in sets of 4 or whatever. As soon as you start to break out of that in terms of your structure, like if you have like an A, B, and then a C, which is a different melodic structure, different stresses, different rhyme thing, then it starts to sound less like a nursery rhyme. And that's really, it has to do with symmetry versus breaking out of symmetry to me.
Yeah, exactly. That's that concept of balance and being unbalanced, right? It's either matching itself, it's resolving, or it's not resolving. And the usefulness of that is, does that fit with what you are saying? So let's say you write a very emotional concept, right? Like maybe it's a very like think of like a topic, like maybe it's a very stressful breakup song or like a divorce song. If you write it in a very resolved structure, like if you wrote that in very stable common meter, AB, AB, right? That structure could cause a disconnection with your listener because the topic is unstable and the structure is too stable. So it almost makes it seem sarcastic, like something doesn't match. So you have the ability then to, as you said, Neil, throw the symmetry off. So maybe one of your lines, maybe you just drop a line. So now you have an odd number of lines, which doesn't resolve, right? 3 lines doesn't resolve, which your topic is unresolved. So your structure matches that, right? Or you could make a line really long. You can make a line really short, keep 4 lines, but change the length. So maybe you only have a 1 syllable line. So maybe you have like 3 lines that have like 4, 3, 4, 1. All of a sudden that's like, ooh, that's off balance. That's not symmetrical. And that matches what you're saying, for sure. Victor says, can phrasing also break the monotony? So yes, I mean, a little bit, but the idea here is you should be singing the words in the same shape that you would speak them, right? So even though you may be stretching and changing the phrasing, the way that you're accenting the words is the same. So it still has that same motion through the section. So because the rhythm is what's related between lyrics and melody. Does that answer your question, Victor? Wally, you had your hand raised.
Hi, Chad. We been working with basically whole words for syllables. I saw like in Mary Had a Little Lamb, the word everywhere is 2 syllables. Could we talk a little bit about, breaking up words to make syllables like thinking, taking? And I noticed a lot of lyrics will take a word like you and make it purposely 2 syllables. Like they'll drag it out like you know what I mean? Words
Yeah.
like that. And they break a 1 syllable word up into, they could even do it into 3 syllables if the rhythm goes right. And it sort of works.
Yeah. So
I mean,
that is called a melisma. So
a
when
what?
a
What is that called?
melisma, MELISMA. So melis, MELISMA. And that is when you sing a 1 syllable word over multiple notes.
Okay.
A lot of times, though, if you listen to the way that those are sung, the initial syllable is still going to fall on a certain beat of the measure, and it still fits within the shape of the language, even though they're drawing out that note. So it's just an embellishment of the rhythm that's there. Your other question about multi-syllable words are stressed in the way that we pronounce them. So if you have thinking, you hear how think is higher in pitch than the ing. So we don't pronounce it thinking, we pronounce it thinking. So it's dumda, strong, weak.
Okay.
So yeah, so if you have like a word like coffee does the same thing. Like we don't say coffee, we say coffee. So strong, weak, dumda is how you, and if you ever have questions on it, look it up in the dictionary. The dictionary will tell you where the stress syllables are within a word.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Great questions. Michelle says, I will always love you, Whitney. Yeah, like Whitney and Mariah, they are melismatic singers. They embellish and ornament words with multiple notes on 1 syllable. Yeah. Really great questions. So now what I wanted to do is I wanted to bring this back to like when you're writing songs, how does this all apply to you? So I want to pop out here. So somebody give me a line. Tony, I think Mariah goes hunting for the right note.
Don't
Hey,
forget your horseshoes.
So somebody let's write just a line. So somebody give me a line of lyric. Just if you want to. Okay, so Kevin has 10 Wonder if I can just copy this. Let's see. Sweet, it worked. So when you're writing, you have decisions to make. So you have this line, right? 10 years ago on a cold, dark night. That's line 1. So let's first determine what is the stress pattern. So we have 10 years ago, 10 years ago on a cold, ago. That might be unstressed. 10 years ago on a cold, dark night. So we have 10 years. That's basically a noun. Those are accented. Ago is a preposition, so not usually stressed. In this situation, Neil, I would say that ago isn't holding meaning. So 10 years cold, dark night. So ago is it. You wouldn't necessarily stress it. On which is also, that is a preposition and an article. Cold, dark night. So you have dumb. So you have a 5 stressed pattern line. So now, as you are writing, you have the decision to make on what do you do with this next line. Do you match it? Do you not match it? Do you match it perfectly? Do you match it imperfectly? This is where your thinking goes to, like, do you want to make it a couplet? Do you want to make it like a more of like a common meter? This is how you start to make these decisions on how you're structuring your lyrics. So does somebody want to write a second line? Mark. So Mark said someone was killed neath
the town hall light.
So this pattern would be someone was killed neath the town hall light. So it's a different stress pattern. So you have dumb, dumb, da 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 da, dumb, dumb, dumb. Whereas this is dumb, da da dumb, da da dumb, dumb, dumb. So it's a different pattern. So it's not quite it's an imperfectly matched couplet because we have the same number of stressed syllables. We have 5 and 5. So that means we're resolving, right? So 10 years ago on a cold, dark night, someone was killed beneath a town hall light. We don't have to go anywhere after that. Do you hear that resolution? It stops the movement. So that is, it's mostly balanced. Can you feel that when you, like, 10 years ago on a cold, dark night, someone was killed beneath a town hall light? So now you make the decision on what's the third line? Are you going to match it again? Are you going to do another line? Are you going to do some other pattern? So Tony says it's like AA. Yes, this is AA, not Alcoholics Anonymous, but this is AA pattern. So yeah, so you have a different stressed pattern, but you have the same number of stress syllables. So imperfectly matched. So Neil says it's imperfect, but the dumb, dumb, dumb on the ends make it more perfect. So Tony's question, would AA usually be followed by BB? Well, so if we wanted to balance it, yes. So this is where you have to look at, what is your topic? Is this topic stable or is it unstable? So 10 years ago on a cold, dark night, someone was killed beneath the town hall light. Would you say that is a stable topic or is that a unstable topic? Michelle says
I would say it's incomplete. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Mark.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I would say it's incomplete, so it's unstable. I know the song, by the way.
Is this an actual song? I don't know.
Yes, it is. Can't think of the name of it though. I'll put it in chat.
Okay, I thought we were making this up, but fine. So so this is like, so the idea here though is, how could the topic be stable, right? Like this topic could be stable if the singer really means what is happening, and if the fact that it's just a very certain thing. Like 10 years ago on a cold dark night, someone was killed beneath the town hall light. That that resolves itself in an imperfect way, because we don't have complete resolution, but we have resolution. So the idea here is, do we keep that or do we not keep it? Right? Wally, you had your hand raised.
Yes. The part where it says neath the town hall light instead of beneath, neath.
Yes. Beneath is a preposition, so usually not stressed.
Right. But does that cause instability due to the fact that the listener is hearing tension where maybe he's keep thinking he's singing beneath, but it's neath. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of something I just tripped upon. I was wondering if as a listener, when you're listening to that, you would be like, oh, I need to clean that up, that part right there, and come up with something better instead of
Yeah.
twisting the listener's mind into, when he or she goes to re-sing it, they're singing beneath, and the whole line becomes unstable, more unstable. But mentally, he's unstable, he or she, because they're thinking this while listening to this. I mean, this is really out there, but I was just curious.
Well, for me, I think using the form of neath really dates the crap out of the song. Like, it sounds like an old song instantaneously.
Right.
I want to try doing this exercise with a song that doesn't exist. So let's try not plagiarizing this time. So somebody give me an original line of lyric, and I want you to learn this thought process. I don't want to analyze a song that already exists. I want you to think like writing, like somebody give me an original lyric, and not a song you already have written. We don't want to play that game. So just somebody, can you give me a line? Okay, so John Gilmore has, when can I stop pretending? So when can I stop? To me, I would stress this as, when can I stop pretending? So da 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 dum da 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 dum da dum da. When can I stop pretending? So there's two stress syllables. So in this case, you have to decide, do you match that or do you not match that? Right? So when you're writing, you're always making this I see that people are putting other lines in. What would be so John says, when can I stop pretending? What would be another line? If you wanted to balance this perfectly, you would have the same pattern, right? So when can I stop pretending? If I was I want to try to rhyme pretending. If Okay, someone said something in here. If our love, if lobe. So when can I stop pretending if we had love unending would be matching the stress syllable pattern. So if I said if our love, that would be a different pattern. So that's matched, right? So you'd have to decide. Shelley says no one says unending. Right. Yeah, probably not. That wouldn't be said, but just as an example for this is you have to make the choice of, are you matching it exactly or are you matching it imperfectly? So this would be a couplet. We're not, yeah, like if I was writing this, I wouldn't use probably any of these words, but it's fine. We're trying to get the concept of how you think about this, right? So it's about, so when can I stop pretending if we had love unending? That feels like it's a thing, right? Like that's your couplet. Well, if you added different lengths of lines, like let's say you came in here and you were saying like, when can I stop pretending that whoops. So when can I stop pretending that we ever meant something to each other? So that would be ever meant something to each other. So that we ever meant something to each other. Da da dum da dum dum da 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 dum da. That we ever meant something to each other. So when can I stop pretending that we ever meant something to each other? If we had love unending, could we make it last? Right? So could we make it last? So this is very unstable, right? Because we're not repeating the pattern. As Neil talked about symmetry. So this adds a sense of unbalance. So when can I stop pretending that we ever met something to each other? If we had love unending, could we make it last? Do you feel that tension in that last line, that it's shorter, or it's actually longer than the one before it, but it's shorter than the one that we expect? Do you see how that structure is supporting that feeling? Tony says, sorry to repeat a question, but should you always balance lyrics with balanced melody rhythm, or can you mix the two? Your lyrical rhythm will be the melodic rhythm. So that's the marriage of lyrics to melody, is if your stress pattern is unbalanced in your lyric, it's going to be unbalanced in your melody, because that's where they meet. Mark says the last line has finality to it. So when can I stop pretending that we ever meant something to each other? What if we move these around? So let's do let's move this up here. So what if it was, when can I stop pretending? Could we make it last if we had love unending, that we ever meant something to each other? And you could change it to, did we ever mean something to each other? It changes the emotion of the section based on how the rhythm is happening and how the structure is happening. So one of the things that you want to think about before you throw away your words is, can you change the rhythm? Can you change the structure? Can you change the line order because a lot of times it's not what you're saying that isn't working, it's how you're saying it that isn't working. So that's the whole point of this long way home that we're taking with talking about couplets becoming common meter, becoming, balanced, unbalanced. It all comes down to how does that structure fit with what you're trying to say. Like you could even change this here. Like we could do, whoops. So could we make it last if we stop pretending, if we had love again and we meant something to each other? Does that feel balanced or unbalanced? Victor says unbalanced. Jay says very unbalanced. Yeah, could we make it last if we stop pretending, if we had love again and we meant something to each other? Yeah, it feels very unbalanced, right? Because the lengths of the lines are different. The lines aren't rhyming. You have an internal rhyme with pretending and something, and then it adds this extra thing. So this is very unbalanced. So does that support or take away what's being said in the lyric, right? So we're saying, could we make it last if we stop pretending, if we had love again and we met something to each other? Tony says it's the lines came from different songs. Possibly. Well, Jay says it depends on how the story ends. So only going on what we're saying here, the story doesn't matter because it's about the feeling of the structure and how it supports the emotion, right?
Yeah,
If
I'm sorry. I was just trying to say that basically that was what I was saying. Is like, what does the overall picture look like?
Yeah. So to me, so Victor says it's very uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable, but to me, that sort of fits with what's happening, right? Like you're asking a question. Asking a question is very much unstable. We're pretending, so things aren't real. If we had love again and meant something to each other, like that's a very unstable topic. So I think it fits from a prosody standpoint. Michael says, should a chorus always be balanced? No, not necessarily. The song by John Mayer, Your Body is a Wonderland, it's unbalanced because it only uses 3 lines in order to create a sense of movement. So it doesn't resolve until the last chorus. So he just repeats the title 3 times in that song. So that's the concept of, are you matching your stuff or are you unmatching your stuff, and are you creating a sense of balance? But let's try to write a sad song very balanced, right? So this is very cheesy, right? But it's written in couplets. You left me with all your crap. I had my heart broken in half. You ran so fast, you left in a rush. I was choking on your getaway dust. Right? Like, I've seen people write songs like this, and it's very stable. It's AABB. It's very nursery rhymey. Yes, I was kind of being a little bit funny with the words, but yet the topic is a heavier, it's a heavier subject, right? but at the same time, it doesn't feel that way because the structure is so stable. And I see so many people trying to write really heartfelt stuff, and it's like very stable sections, and it's a disconnect with the emotion. And a lot of times your words will not outright the structure. And that's something that's kind of a hard lesson to learn. But when you think about how we communicate, only a certain percentage of how we communicate is through the actual words. Some of it's our tone, some of it's our body language. What we're talking about with structure in songs is we're talking about the body language and the tone of the song. Neil, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, just riffing on what you just said, Chad. I think especially as a beginning songwriter, you tend to think or assume that everything must rhyme, right? Like you ran so fast and left in a rush and was choking on your getaway dust. It's like, okay, I need to find a rhyme for rush. And even though it may seem forced and cliche or kind of cheesy or whatever, I think people tend to people tend to give the trump card to melody and structure and does it rhyme and does it, like, you know, keep the listener engaged from a melodic standpoint, even if you sacrifice maybe the meaning of the words. I heard something a short while ago that I heard for the first time, is that melody is what grabs your listener, the lyric is what keeps them there.
Yes.
But I find I've done that a lot. I do it less now than I used to do, but it used to be like, okay, gotta find a rhyme for this word, gotta find a rhyme for this word, even though it may not have the emotional weight that it would otherwise. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So sort of riffing off of your point here. So I did find dust because I was trying to rhyme with rush, right? Because I know that's how a lot of us write. Same thing with crap. We wanted to find a rhyme, you know, like I wrote the word crap. What rhymes with crap? Half. Okay. What if we just do this? You left me. I had my heart broken in half. You ran so fast. I was choking. Now, all of a sudden, that actually gave me a few chills there, surprisingly. But now, all of a sudden, it feels like it means something, right? It doesn't feel written anymore. And the reason why is because we were leaning too much on that very common, stable structure, right? This structure fits the emotion more than the last structure did. Do you feel how this doesn't seem as cheesy as before? It doesn't have the, as Jay just called it, the breakup song by Dr. Seuss. Yeah, you left me. I had my heart broken in half. You ran so fast, I was choking. Like that has like a feeling to it. It's unbalanced because you have me half fast choking. The rhyme scheme is basically, you know, no rhymes really. Well, half and fast, I guess it'd be like X, A, X. And then your line lengths, you have one stress syllable in the first line. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 in the second. Ran and fast, so you have 2. So 1, 4, 2, 1. 1, 4, 2, 1. So that's very unstable, right? So it fits with what you're saying. It feels like it means something. And all we did was drop words. Like I said, it's not I had my heart broken in half. Had is a verb. It's a weak verb, so you can either stress it or not stress it, Victor, because it doesn't carry much meaning, but you can stress it. So I was counting it as had my heart broken in half. But I think that's such a huge lesson, is before you throw out what you've written, step back from it and see what are you actually, could I see Whitney or Mariah singing this? Yeah. I mean, they would draw out the me, they'd probably draw out the you, ran, any of the vowels they could draw out. But do you see how just taking out the words that were just there to make it a song can sometimes make it a real song? And that's what this all comes down to is, do you want balance or do you want unbalance, and how does that fit with what you're trying to say? So that's the concept of prosody. So this workshop, like I said, is a little bit deeper than we do some of the other times, but I thought it's a good foundation to think about how structure affects what you're writing. How do you see yourself thinking about this, or what are your thoughts after doing this today? Does anybody have thoughts on how you may think about this or use this in your writing? Michelle says, and then there's songs that seem to be mostly balanced and still have emotional impact, like Joni's Both Sides Now. Yeah. Robin uses it. Awesome. Mark.
Yeah, when I'm writing, my general concern is, after I've got the melody, is just maintaining the rhythm of the melodic line. And so I guess I have a tendency to fill up each syllable, and that depends on finding the right word. And so sometimes if you, whether the meaning is kind of ambiguous or not, but sometimes just leaving, adding, well, not so much adding in a syllable, but leaving out a syllable here and there can accentuate the rhythm of the line. And to me, that's what's the most important, is just maintaining the rhythm and then breaking it up occasionally.
Yeah, and that's the work, and that's the craft of songwriting, is trying to make sure that you have the right melody too. Like, is not only are we looking, are the lyrics worth saving or worth having, but you should look at your melody the same way and say, is this melody really supporting what I'm saying? Like, does the rhythm support the emotion? Does the pitch range support the emotion? Does, how do you then create this prosody with melody? And I'm doing a melody workshop. It's a 2-day workshop, March 23rd and 24th. Some of you are already signed up, but check it out at athomesongwritingcourses.com. It's not a free workshop. You do have to pay, but it's definitely going to be where we explored some of these concepts on the melodic side, because some of the same concepts apply, where your melody, whether you are making the decision on purpose or not, is saying something to your listener. So we'll study how you're communicating to your listener. Jay, you had your hand raised.
So, Chad, there are two things in the past few years that have kind of stuck in my craw, and this was one of them, because this is the first time anyone's kind of given more context as to what they mean by stress. So when I've been corrected before about prepositions and they're like, that's not this, because and this is the first time I've heard that there are certain things like prepositions that aren't stressed. And so now that I have more context, I mean, now I can look up more, but I didn't really know that. And I think that's a great benefit, because I thought when I hear stress, you meant tonally, because what else would it be, without that extra context? So I really appreciate it. So if I can get the answer to the other thing one day, then hopefully I'll be set.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Thanks, Jay. Michelle says that for her, the challenge is creating prosody between lyrics and melody. Absolutely. Like, it is work. And I think that's the thing with songwriting, is what works in one song doesn't work in another song. So just when you think you have it figured out and you think you have like a formula, it doesn't apply, right? So every song is different. But if you know the tools, you can know the options. And I think that's what I'd like to try to study myself, but also like to try to teach, is like, when you get to that point where you're like, what is not working here? Then you know what to kind of look at. Tony says, going to try using unbalanced lyrics to unbalance the melodies, as I feel tend to lean towards balanced music too much. We all do. We all like resolution there. And Michael says, how does this relate to Pat's topic of motion? So yeah, so Pat Pattison talks about motion creates emotion. And when we're talking about motion, we're talking about unbalance. We're talking about instability. So if something's balanced, it doesn't move really. It's stable. Motion is the unbalance. So it's something isn't matching. It's creating tension. That's where that concept comes from. Neil.
Yeah, I just want to say that in the more recent past, I've been particularly proud of myself when I write a song that does break out of that symmetry, right? Like I wrote a holiday song a couple of years ago, that my chorus was like 3 lines, it's sort of a rhyme and same stresses and that sort of thing, and then 2 lines that were completely different than that, right? So sort of a 2-part thing in my chorus, which was really, to me, it was kind of more interesting than, because you're right, like my default is resolution and go for perfect rhyme and go for the same number of stresses and the same number of syllables in every line. And that's your kind of default position for, regardless of what the topic may be, right? But this sort of brings the whole concept up into a little bit more conscious thinking about which words are important, which words are not important, and the stress patterns and like you guys are saying, like the prosody of the lyric and the melody. And that last exercise you did was deleting parts of the lines that weren't necessary. That was very revealing, because it's like, yeah, you can write something and it could be your default thing, but then you can consciously edit it so that it becomes something closer to what you actually are intending or what you actually wanted. Because we do have the automatic things that we do, and then you can enhance that presumably by injecting some of these tools. So yeah, very helpful.
Yeah, and one of the things that you can do as an exercise is write the same section, both balanced and unbalanced, and see which one you prefer or which one actually communicates the way you want it to communicate, right? So you can actually give yourself options to see, like, does this work as being balanced, or does that sound awkward? I think in the example that I just did quickly, to me, the unbalanced definitely feels more authentic and feels more realistic for sure, but that might not always be the case. Victor.
Yeah, I think it's something that Mark said. I don't know if this is what he meant, but it's how it kind of was like a lightning bolt in my mind. And then Neil and I share a brain, so he just started saying it is. I'm AC/DC with start with lyrics or start with music. But what I find when I start with music is, as what I was hearing Mark saying, is you've got this tune, right? You've got this number of notes in that line. And I've been too prone to thinking I have to fill every single one of those little notes, right? Like it sets out a kind of a fill in the blanks, and I've got to have I've got to have a word or a syllable in each one of those. And I think that's a real weakness when I need to unbalance. I'm unconsciously balancing, and I can't figure out why. And I think that's exactly why. So, you can have the Mary had a little lamb, its fleece was white as snow. You don't have to have the snow part in, right? You can unbalance that. Even though you've got the number of notes there, you don't have to sing them all. Its fleece was white, right? Starts to unbalance that a little bit. And maybe that's the direction you're trying to go in with the song. So before today, that thought had never occurred to me. Thanks, Chad, and everybody.
Yeah, awesome. And I mean, we took a long way to get there, right? But the idea is knowing that you have those options and you're not necessarily tied to always balancing things out or always matching, because matching isn't always the right way to go. Wally.
Yes. I like couplets because they force you to think about what you're writing. At least for me, it's a good way to stay focused versus somebody like, you mentioned Bob Dylan a while back. His song Tangled Up in Blues is just packed full of words. It's a huge story. And that is I think it's a cool song. And on the flip side of that, you have Patti Smith, Dancing Barefoot, which I mentioned. She pretty much, it's kind of like she wrote that song using couplets. And with a very drawn out rhythm, which gives the song a hypnotic feel to it, because you don't have to think too much about the story. You know, the words are just right in front of you and they're very limited. And I can focus better writing couplets at this point, or it just might be the way I like to lean at this point. But couplets are pretty good. Just wanted to say that. The other question I had, Chad, earlier you had wrote the line 10, or somebody here on here wrote the line 10 years ago on a cold, dark night. You wrote that in your word processor for us to see as one line. This always confused me. Like if you said to write a 4-line verse or a 6-line verse, I could have broke that up into 2 lines. 10 years ago, 1 line, on a cold, dark night, 2 lines. And I see a lot of lyrics written one way or the other. And I'm just curious, what constitutes a line of lyric?
So great question. Both ways would be correct, depending on how you meant them. The thing that makes the difference is how it is sung. So usually 1 line of lyric relates to 1 melodic phrase. So a lot of people, so think about, I want to show you an example here of this, because I have people asking me about this. I'm actually going to save that little verse. So let's go some James Taylor here. Okay, so this is the first verse to Fire and Rain, right? Just yesterday morning, they let me know you were gone. Suzanne, the plans they made put an end to you. I woke up this morning and I wrote down this song. I just can't remember who to send it to, right? So a lot of people consider this to be a 4-line verse. I actually hear it differently because I hear it as the melodic phrases. So it goes, so I hear it like this, as a 6-line verse, because it goes, just yesterday morning, pause, they let me know you were gone, pause, Suzanne, the plans they made put an end to you. I woke up this morning and I wrote down this song. I just can't remember who to send it to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, the melodic phrases is what dictates the lyrical phrase. And you'll see a lot of people writing from a very prose-based space, or they just look up the lyrics online, which a lot of times the lyrics online are not put in the right structure. But when you're analyzing a song, you should analyze it lines equal melodic phrases. So if you look at this as a 6-line section, it's an A, B, C, A, B, C, right? So you have morning, gone, you, morning, song, two. Now, people would say, well, both ways kind of work, right? Just yesterday morning, they let me know you were gone. That's 1 sentence. Yes, it is 1 sentence, but the way that it's sung, these are the actual melodic phrases. So I would say, Wally, think of it how the melody is, and a melodic phrase would equal a lyric line. Does that make sense?
Wow, that was a lot. I'm gonna have to re-listen to this.
You can rewatch.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when I think of Fire and Rain, I hear it as a 6-line verse with ABC, ABC. Now, how did James think about it? No idea, but the melody works as a 6-line because there's 6 melodic phrases that repeat in an ABC pattern within that song. So that's how I would look at it.
So if you were to dumb it down, how would you say this is what you got to do? Just so I could write this down.
So what you do is you listen to a song, and wherever there is a space between melodic phrases or where there's a melody line, that is where a new lyric line would start.
Right.
So with Fire and Rain, it's da 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 da.
Yeah, where there's a pause.
Yep. da 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 da, and then it repeats da 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 da. And
Okay, so,
both of these halves of this verse are imperfectly matched. So they're very close, but they're not quite exact. But
mhm.
it's close enough that the melody works. Does that
Okay.
help?
Yes, so you said basically to finish it up, to listen to the song, listen to the line, and listen to the um how do you say it? You want to finish that sentence for me, please?
Yeah, so if you're listening to a song, if you're analyzing a song, wherever there is a pause between melodic phrases, that would indicate that you're starting a new lyric line.
Okay, that's a good start.
Yeah. Jeanette, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's probably going to help with something like if you want to get like a hook stand out more. It's giving me an idea.
You mean like just having some kind of songwriting hook to, is that what you're
Mm,
saying? Like from a
yeah,
melody perspective?
correct.
Yeah, a lot of times, if you are writing more commercial songs, a lot of times the melody is the first, as somebody said it earlier, that the melody is the first thing that people hear, and then the lyric
Mhm.
keeps them. Because the melody is what people hum, right? Like a lot of times people aren't humming lyric, so a lot of times we memorize melody. Um, yeah, but yeah, a lot of times you do want a hook to sort of build off of, or a motif. Another word for a hook is kind of like motif. Um, Chuck said something here. He says, makes perfect sense, but there's really no set rule on how to break down the lines of your song. Yeah, it's all art. It's all a little bit of art, always a little bit of just tendencies that happen. I would say that when you are analyzing songs, your safest bet is to analyze them as melodic lines, um, just because that's how the lines would be written out on staff paper, right? You would have different sections of melodic phrases that would also fit with lyrical phrases, and it gives the a more of a matching structure. Um, let's see. Tony says a lot of songwriters don't seem to mind using the same word more than once, even in the same verse. Am I obsessing too much trying to avoid this? Yes, probably. I mean, I think we all overthink our writing. A lot of times it's better to just say what you mean instead of trying to like worry about a bunch of non-existent rules and stuff. Tony says, could the pause just be a comma? Yes. So a lot of times when I'm teaching writers with Berkeley and also some of my other coaching clients, a lot of times they will put commas in lines, and a comma gives the sense of a pause, right? So in a lot of ways that makes it feel like it's a new part of it's a new melodic phrase. So commas, you have to be careful where you're putting them in your lyrics. Chuck.
Yeah, and I think unless we're looking at the lyrics while a song is being performed, it doesn't really matter. Because we're gonna listen to it the way the singer sings it. I think we're looking at a lyric sheet that to a song we know, like the one you're talking about with James Taylor. It makes sense to break it down melodically because that's how people are going to sing it, right? I mean, it does make sense to break it down melodically, but I mean, because you wouldn't hand a song, a demo and a lyric sheet to a publisher that didn't match up. You'd want them to read it melodically. So that is probably the best way to do it, but I still don't think there's a wrong way. I think that's an artistic choice too. I think if I want to write 2 words, even though you might hear 4, it doesn't really matter.
I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't, as long as you understand it the way that you want to understand it. But most people listen to songs, they're not reading them. So a lot of times it doesn't really have any use except for yourself, right? And I think it makes it easier to, like Chuck said, if you are presenting to a publisher, if they're reading the melody or if they're reading the lyric line as the melody lines are happening, it just makes it just makes it more of an understandable experience. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to how the song sounds. But there's really no escaping that usually a lyric line equals a melodic line, right? Like that's just how it naturally happens within a song. Michael says, how might someone maximize instability? Do you mean, Michael, using it to your advantage, or do you mean making it as unstable as possible?
I don't understand the first part, but yeah, making it as unstable as possible, right? So you have a very unstable section you're trying to create.
Then you would just have the least amount of things matching as possible, like different number of lines, different line lengths, different rhythms, different rhyme types, different rhyme scheme, like nothing matched if you wanted to make it completely unstable. Good question. Well, that's all I have for all of you today. So hopefully this is helpful. And Chuck says technically a lyric sheet shouldn't have any punctuation. Correct. Even on lines that are questions, it's usually a good idea to leave a question mark off and leave out commas as well, because it can cause confusion when listening to the songs. Awesome. Well, everybody, thanks. Oh, Jay, you had your hand raised.
Yeah. Actually, I had a request. Maybe it's like challenge. I don't know if you're up to it. But the other thing that I have issue with is a lot of people in their workshops bring up musical shape. And that is a concept that seems to be something that people experience differently or they perceive differently. I don't know what these shapes look like. And I feel as though a song that is tonally up and down as Bohemian Rhapsody and well known, if someone could draw shapes to that entire song, that it would give me, and I'm sure a lot of other people who really need to understand that concept, a clear picture as to what these hieroglyphs or whatever they are going to be is supposed to look like. Because if we can follow that song and we know it and we see these shapes, I think a lot of people will hopefully would get benefit, because I feel like I would.
Yeah, so the idea of melodic shape comes from what the notes are doing. So like if the pitches are going up, that is a ascending shape, right? Like so the notes are going up, that means it's ascending. If it goes the shape of, like, if you go up and then go back down, that's like an arch, right? Where that comes from is picturing those notes on sheet music is kind of where that concept came from. So definitely shapes are the one of the keys to melody, and we've talked about it in some of the melody workshops that I have on the YouTube channel. We've touched on it. We'll also talk about it in the melody retreat or the workshop that's coming up in March. But it really comes down to, Jay, what the melody is doing from a pitch perspective. Is it staying steady? Is it staying like on one, like it's not really moving? Is it going up? Is it going down? Is it zigzagging? Is it like going down and then back up? Is it, just going down? It really comes down to what's happening at the phrase level and the motif level. I think I saw someone say in here, I think it was Ron, that says you use shapes in creating a motif, right? So that's usually where it comes into play, but yeah, there we've talked about it in other workshops, and we'll talk about it again in March for sure.
And kind of like when I was talking about context earlier, I think seeing it with a familiar song throughout, even if it was just a verse and a chorus, would be enough pattern to be like, oh, okay, that's what it looks like.
Got it. So you would want to see what shapes like
Yes,
an existing
please.
song has, right?
Please.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely add that into upcoming stuff for sure.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thanks so much for joining. Hopefully this didn't get too technical. We covered a lot of ground, but it's something to think about and something to put in the back of your mind as you're writing. But definitely hope to see you at the next workshops. On the 22nd, I'm going to be reviewing some of your songs that have been uploaded into the online community. So hopefully you can join Thursday evening at 6:30 Central for that. So we'll be looking at some of your songs, which will be fun. Awesome. Well, everybody have a great rest of the weekend. Oh, and yeah, so Michelle just posted it in the chat. If you do feel like, you want to throw me a tip or anything, the buymeacoffee.com/at-home songwriting, you can definitely do that. No obligation, but it always helps, especially when I have to pay Chuck off, those types of things. All right. Well, everybody, thanks for hanging out. I will see you again soon. Bye.